Thank you for joining me here on this video. So this video is my review of the Sunday afternoon part 2 of the Jehovah's Witness Convention 2020. Now this is the final session of the convention, Always Rejoice, and I can tell you that I am rejoicing. I am rejoicing today that this is the final part of the convention that I'm reviewing. It's been a task, so thank goodness we're finally at the end. So traditionally, the Sunday afternoon talks at Jehovah's Witnesses conventions and assemblies has been designed to pull everything together, to pull all the learning, all the sessions, all the talks, all the dramas, everything that's gone on in the preceding sessions and the preceding days. This final talk is to pull it all together, and it's no different in this session. So what I've done with this video in this section is I have gone through it and I have just pulled out all the parts that I believe are the underlying theme of the Always Rejoice convention. Now if you want to see the entire video, then please do so. It is on the jw.org website. Also, if you've missed any of my previous reviews of the convention, which covered the Friday and Saturday and the rest of the Sunday, then I will leave a link in the description box below. Please feel free to check out my reviews of those sessions and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Okay, so this is, as I said, the final part of the convention review, the final talk, and it's given by Governing Body David Splane. Now there is so much to talk about again in this video, but I've just pulled out some key points, and for me it goes to show just how totally and utterly delusional the leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses are. There's no other words for it. There's no other explanation for what you're about to see other than that they are totally delusional. But as usual, I'm going to show you the footage and then you can decide for yourself. So let's roll the clips.
Now, speaking of broadcasting, do you think Jehovah has been preparing us for something like this pandemic? Think about this. A few years ago, the decision was made to set up something called JW Broadcasting. And at the time, who knew how practical an arrangement that was going to turn out to be? And who knows what uses JWB will be put to in the future? Jehovah knows. Jehovah looks ahead. Sometimes we don't know ourselves why certain decisions are made or why we are making certain decisions, but Jehovah knows.
David Splane seems to think that him and his colleagues in the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses are the only ones affected by the pandemic and the way that the world has had to change. If only he took his head out of his bubble, then he would realise that the way that the world has had to change is completely different. Everybody, whether in their personal lives or in their businesses or in their work life, has had to move, change and make adaptations due to the pandemic. Also note that he says that him and the governing body don't know why certain decisions are made or why certain decisions are being made. Well, if they claim, as they do, to be God's channel of communication and God is speaking to them and directing the organisation, then surely that would mean that God would be communicating to them and telling him and telling his colleagues why they are supposed to do what they're supposed to do. So he kind of contradicts himself very much here. Yeah, very much so. Why hasn't their God Jehovah told them what they're supposed to do? Why is it all guesswork? Methinks he is telling porkies, and they are not inspired of God. And I know many people in the ex-Jehovah Witness community has been saying for many, many years that the organisation is going to be an online religion, and I totally agree with that. I totally agree. As we see, they are selling lots of kingdom halls, downsizing, pocketing the money. We don't know what they're doing with the money, but that money is definitely going somewhere, and it's not to feed and look after their followers, that's for sure. So they're downsizing, and as we know, with a lot of businesses, a lot of organisations, they're doing the same thing, and they're finding now that so many ways of communication has been opened up, and it's saving a lot of money, because Zoom is a free platform. The Jehovah's Witnesses are using Zoom. It's a free platform. So you know, we're seeing their conventions go online, their meetings are now online, and who knows, eventually I can see the meetings all being online. So watch this space, as they say.
Now, some of you have lost your jobs. Others have been very sick during the past few months. And a few of you have lost loved ones in death. There's no way you can be happy about those circumstances. But you can rejoice in your knowledge of Jehovah. You can rejoice in your knowledge of what Jehovah God has in store for us in the future. People outside don't have that. We do. We rejoice in Jehovah.
People outside? Oh, you mean people outside your cult? Yeah, of course. Well, here's the thing. People outside the evil, wicked cult of Jehovah Witnesses have lots to rejoice in. Lots. They can rejoice in the love and friendship and fellowship of their families without having to be shunned by deluded people who have had their minds altered by the governing body and the elders. So they can rejoice in that. And within that, they can rejoice in seeing their children grow and lead happy, fulfilled lives. They can rejoice in seeing their grandchildren. They can rejoice in having healthy friendships with whoever they choose. They can rejoice in living a life that is free of indoctrination. They can rejoice in living a life without abuse being covered up. They can rejoice in having freedom to do the things that they want, to live the way that they want without judgment. They have so many freedoms. They can read whatever they want. They can rejoice in watching whatever they want. They can rejoice in having the careers and the jobs that they choose. There is an awful lot that people, as he says, outside, i.e. outside of the cult, can enjoy. I was just thinking of when I used to go to a non-denominational charismatic church. There was a song that we used to sing, and I loved that song, and it's just come to mind, and the words of it go, "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." And I know that that's a Bible verse, and as I always say, I'm not a Bible scholar. When I left the Jehovah's Witnesses. I completely lost my faith because of what this cult religion did to me in terms of my spirit, in terms of spiritually abusing me. But that's something that I remembered, and something that we sang about: where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And that's absolutely right. There is absolute freedom to live your life when you're outside of the cult. So I rejoice, and I know many of you watching this video alongside with me will be rejoicing that we are not part of a mind controlling cult. So yeah, glad to be on the outside.
And did you notice how well our convention program matched up with the theme for this year, the year text? Make disciples, baptizing them. We had so much information on how to improve on our teaching skills. Why do you think that is?
I know why that is. It's because your preaching work is not effective. It's because you, David Splane, and your governing body colleagues are a false prophet. You are false prophets, and you are not teaching love. You are not Christ-like. So, of course, people are not being attracted to you because they are seeing straight through you and your wicked ways. So, of course, you need to improve on your preaching techniques because you're not effective at all. People, the only way that you are seeing growth is because you are now baptizing children, and before you know it, you will be baptizing babies out of the womb straight into the baptismal pool. That's the only way you're seeing growth. And people inside your organization are waking up, and they are leaving in droves. So you are tightening your claws around your existing followers, holding them captive and using their families and their friends as a bargaining tool. And because people are not coming into your truth, they're not listening to you, and you've got your people out there like spiritual prostitutes out on the street corners, standing there on their phones, talking to each other, not engaging people at all. Therefore, you've realised you've got to do something to improve their teaching techniques. But it's not going to work. It's all in vain, because people are wise to your evil ways.
And wasn't it a good idea to have us follow the progress of a Bible student, Jade, as Nita overcame one challenge after another? That was realistic, wasn't it? And what a transformation. Jade isn't jaded anymore.
Man's deluded. Man's deluded.
Jehovah has the right to expect that we'll love him even more than we love our husband, our wife, our son or daughter, or our parents. Jehovah has to come first, showing that Jehovah has to come first, even when it comes to providing for our family.
There are some things that are beyond words, and this is one of them. Now, I ask you, how can this ever be right? How is that right? How is that love? It's not. It's evil. And you know, the saddest thing is there are people who are Jehovah's Witnesses who take these words and they believe them and they follow them. And lots of people follow these words because they live in fear that if they don't, they're going to be shunned. And for those who don't fear being shunned or feel that they've done nothing to be shunned, they still follow these words because they have been infected with the delusion of this wicked cult. How is that ever right? All I know is that as a parent, my child comes first above anything. And as a child myself, I honour my parents and I look after them, I took care of them, and their needs came first. And with my family and my friends, they know that they will come first if they need me. And my community in which I live, if ever they needed my support, they have it. So, no. He's delusional. Because when he talks about Jehovah comes first, for those of you who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, you will understand this. But for those of you who are not, or who were never Jehovah's Witnesses, what you need to understand is that when they talk about Jehovah, they're not talking about the God of the Bible. They're not even talking about the God of the heavens and the earth, the creator of mankind, the almighty, the all-powerful, the all-being. They're not talking about that God. They're talking about their God, their idol that lives out in New York somewhere, who the governing body bow down and worship. They're talking about an evil and demonic force that they rendered their service to. And you only have to look at their beliefs and their practices to understand that. They're not talking about the Almighty, the all-powerful, the all-being, the supreme, the divine, the creator of the heavens and the earth, let alone the God of the Bible. But I just think it's warped that they should even say this. Very disturbing, very disturbing.
We find joy in Jehovah's service because he's reasonable in what he expects of us. You come home after a long day's work, you're exhausted, worn out, stressed out. You come home from field service or from a meeting, you're refreshed. Jehovah is reasonable. We're also confident that Jehovah will provide our food and clothing no matter how dire the situation gets. Now, what he provides might not always be fancy, but it'll always be enough. It'll always be adequate to get us through. And we should always be grateful for anything Jehovah provides, no matter how simple it might be. A researcher once drew a distinction between Jehovah's Witnesses and some others who were in concentration camps in Nazi Germany. A non-witness might say, "Where is the God? All I have to eat is this miserable piece of bread." A witness in the same camp might say, "Oh Jehovah, thank you. I have a piece of bread to eat. I can eat and regain my strength and live just a little longer to serve you, and maybe I'll be able to share some of my bread with someone else." The conclusion of the researcher? Both received a piece of bread, but it was all in the point of view. The witness had a spiritual point of view, and the witness was grateful for even a simple provision that Jehovah had made. Well, during this pandemic, it could be that your menu has been greatly simplified. Maybe you haven't been able to eat the way you would normally eat. If you had just pasta or rice to eat, you didn't say, "Look at this, all I have to eat is pasta. All I have to eat is rice." You thanked Jehovah for the rice or for the pasta. You were grateful for the provisions, and you realized that no matter how simple, these provisions came from Jehovah. And don't forget, the greatest privilege any of us can have is to bear the name of Jehovah, to be called one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And we're part of a family of brothers and sisters who love us and who would even risk their lives for us. And the lesson here? Jehovah doesn't answer prayers that are not in harmony with his will. The chairman will show you how. You may applaud. But surely it means meditating on the meaning of God's name and meditating on the role that we can have in vindicating his name. As you know, many scholars believe that Jehovah's name means he causes to become. Jehovah can become whatever he needs to become, and he can make you become whatever he needs you to be. What other religious organization foretells the destruction of a world empire of false religion? We're the only ones, because the others are all part of Babylon the Great. They're not going to foretell the destruction in the future. So the destruction is going to be a surprise to everyone but Jehovah's Witnesses. And when it occurs, there'll be no doubt in your mind that you're on the winning side, that you're on Jehovah's side. Some brothers get all upset over some detail they don't think the organization has the right take on. It might be the pronunciation of God's name, or the meaning of that name, or the meaning of a single verse in the scriptures. They get all upset, they get obsessed over one detail, and it interferes with their worship. But when Babylon the Great goes down, will there be any doubt as to which channel Jehovah God has been using all this time to do his will? You will be so glad that you're on the winning side and never, ever having to think about death again. Are you looking forward to conducting a Bible study with an unbelieving relative who returns, or maybe with some historical figure? You know, this weekend we learned that even faithful men of old were going to have to adapt to a different way of life and learn how to worship Jehovah in a way that will be acceptable to him then. No, Abraham, that child does not need to be circumcised. David, you're not a king anymore. If you want a glass of water, you have to get up and get it yourself. Samuel, I know you're grateful to be resurrected, but we don't offer animal sacrifices anymore. So please, put that knife down and leave that bull alone.
At this stage, I'm just totally lost for words. And you know, I kind of think that if this doesn't make people believe that the leaders of their organisation is totally up the swanny without a paddle, if they've lost their marbles, if Jehovah's Witnesses watch this and don't think that there's something desperately wrong with the leaders of the organisation that they have invested in, then I honestly don't know what will wake them up. This is just quite unbelievable. And, you know, it's almost like he's reenacting the scenes in his head. it's quite worrying. And seriously, if he's going to draw on those examples of David and all of that, surely he would find a better example to draw on. It's just totally bizarre. Bizarre with capitals. I'm kind of lost for words. Seriously, I'm kind of lost for words. But you know, the saddest thing is, I think Jehovah's Witnesses are so far down the plug hole. They are so far down that plug hole of delusional and mind control that I think a lot of them would probably enjoy that little scene. I can see them just sitting there laughing and thinking, oh, how fun, how creative, not realising that they are part of the delusion. I'm stunned.
Yes, there are going to be adjustments that have to be made. And what about living conditions? Where would you prefer to live in the new world? Maybe you love the country. And if you're assigned to live in the country, you'll be very happy. But suppose you love the country, but you're assigned to live in a city. Well, you can learn to love the city. Jehovah can help you to become whatever you need to become. Whatever you're given to do in the new world is going to be a blessing. Jehovah gives good gifts and perfect presents to his servants. And so Jehovah is going to make arrangements that are going to be for the ultimate good of all mankind. Now, we don't know what arrangements will be made to clean up the earth just after the Great Tribulation, but we do know there'll be work to do, and you may have the privilege of sharing in that. And think how you'll feel as you begin to move closer to perfection, both in mind and in body. Now enjoy the video, but pay attention to the music, because we're going to be singing that original song at the end of this program. We want everyone to sing. Everyone must sing. No just moving the lips. No faking. Sing.
And the paradise to come. But to have your love forever is a real and lasting treasure. You alone will prove to be our joy eternally. There is joy in your creation, in the message of salvation, and the paradise to come. But to have your love forever is a real and lasting treasure. You alone will prove to be our joy eternally.
Okay, so the one thing that Jehovah's Witnesses are very good at, because, you know, come on, credit where credit is due. The one thing that Jehovah's Witnesses are very, very good at is emotions. They're excellent at incorporating emotions into their talks and presentations. And I will admit that when I was watching this video and listening to that emotional song, it's very emotive and stirring music, and then seeing those images, particularly Ben with his family Ben was from the Friday of the convention, and he's there cooking around the fire, cooking this delicious looking barbecue, and then seeing a man approach him. Presumably it's his father who's been resurrected. You know, I'm not gonna lie, listening to that music and seeing that scene stirred something in me, because I've lost both my parents, and my father, he woke up years ago. He was like, this is a load of nonsense. But unfortunately my mother, she died as a Jehovah's Witness, and although she was in the process of waking up, she hadn't woken up fully. But I believe that if she'd have lived another 2 or 3 years, she would have fully woke up. So watching that video, watching that clip, it just stirred something in me. Not about the resurrection, because, you know, I don't believe a word Jehovah's Witnesses say, but just seeing that whole emotion around seeing your loved ones and just being around your family and your friends and being out in nature and all of that, and then having this very stirring and rousing emotion, I will admit it did bring a tear to my eye. I'm just putting it out there, just saying. It did bring a tear to my eye. And you know, there's a saying that when emotions are high, intelligence is low. Yeah, intelligence is low. And that's how I felt being a non-Jehovah's Witness, out of the cults, examining the cult and seeing it for what it really is. And I can't imagine how those Jehovah's Witnesses who are still captive in the cult, who are still subject to the mind control, who still hold those beliefs, how they would feel when they see those that scene and hear that song. And that is what Jehovah's Witnesses are good at. There are so many holes in what they teach. So many. They've got bigger holes than the Titanic. Huge amount of holes. So what they can't get their people to hold dear to and firmly, strongly believe, they top it with emotions. And those that do believe, again, they just top it. It's the cherry on the cake, is that emotive music, the emotive songs. And in my last video, which was Sunday morning, which was Sunday afternoon, part 1, I did make comment how the music has changed, and before long we're going to see them, you know, having their own Tasha Cobbs and their own singers. So I will drop a link to that video below, so feel free to check it out. And again, we're seeing now, and there is definitely shift in their music and their songs, becoming more worldly, if you like. And I think a lot of it is by design. It is to really stir the emotions, and that is definitely what Jehovah's Witnesses are good at, because let me tell you, those kingdom melodies, oh, they used to put me to sleep, never mind stir emotion. But now I do have to admit that the new songs and the new music does stir emotions. It is very stirring, and that is the one thing they are good at. So yeah, interesting. But also, I mean, I had to laugh all the way through that scene. I just didn't know what to make of it, seeing Jade and Nita out in the ministry. Nita in her genes, which I thought was very interesting. Because Jehovah's Witnesses have, you know, this thing about women wearing trousers. So it was interesting to see Nita out in her jeans. And they're clearly in the paradise earth, because they're speaking to this very oddly dressed woman. She looks as though she's from, I don't know, Jane Eyre, or, you know, that era, Charles Dickens era, 1800s, Georgian perhaps. Yeah, so she's sitting there. Nita and Jade all very casually go to see her. Interestingly, did you notice that they pulled out the silver bullet, their silver sword, their Bible? I don't know what they call it these days, it's always changing, but they pulled out their silver coloured Bible. And again, in my last video, and as I say, there will be a link to it, which was the Sunday afternoon part 1, the speaker did say that in the new system, in the paradise earth, there's going to be a new Bible. So just interesting that they're saying there's going to be a new Bible, but yet Nita and Jade pulls out their existing Bible, or one of the versions of their Bibles. So yeah, interesting, but don't know what to make of it. It's a fairy tale, it's a fantasy, it's somebody's it's the governing body's delusional thoughts, it's their yeah, it's their it's their fantasy, it's their dream. It's not real. It's not real.
After that touching video, what more is there to say?
That's right, David. What more is there to say? I ask you. I think you've said enough. So guys, there you have it. This brings me to the end of my review of the Jehovah's Witnesses 2020 convention review, entitled Always Rejoice. Thank you so much for being with me here on this journey to review the convention, and I thank you for so many of you that have subscribed to my channel throughout the convention review. I do appreciate that. So what's next? Well, I have had such wonderful feedback, such positive comments from you, my viewers, and so many people telling me that they appreciate my reviews and the work that I've done, and how it's helping to, one, wake some of you up, but also, once you've left, to also deal and process the spiritual abuse that you've experienced. And I totally understand that. I was out of the organisation for nearly 30 years before I started to process and deal with my spiritual abuse, and I'm still processing that. So I find that creating these videos and reviewing what Jehovah's Witnesses teach is helping me, and clearly it's helping you too. So I've decided that I'm going to continue reviewing Jehovah's Witnesses materials. I do apologise about any background noise that you can pick up. My neighbours have got the builders in. So yeah, so thank you so much for subscribing. If you've not subscribed to my channel, please do so. I'm so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and it's a goal that I really want to achieve. So if you've not done so, please click that red subscribe button. It'll be down there somewhere, not sure which side. I think it might be over here, but if not, over there. But anyway, click that red subscribe button and the notification bell, and leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts, what you think. Also let me know what videos you'd like to see me review, or what subject you would like me to cover. So I would appreciate your feedback. And also, please don't forget to give me the thumbs up, or if you're a Jehovah's Witness, a thumbs down. But either way, thumbs up, thumbs down, please do so, because it helps me. So all of those things, if you subscribe, if you like or dislike, or if you leave a comment, it helps me to grow my channel. So I really appreciate that. Okay guys, thank you for being here with me. It's been a tough, long, tedious journey at times, going through the material of the convention, but I've learnt something and I hope that it's helped you. So on that note, have a lovely day, and I will see you soon on another video. Take care guys.